Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 5:14 a.m. East Coast time, Wednesday, August 28th. Wow, August is almost over. So we have a couple slates today, quick early 2-game slate, and then the main 11-game slate at night. Yesterday's slate, barely. I think I was like the last person on the cash line in the 110, and Gad barely got in there with the Red Sox stack coming in a little bit later with some of those home runs, so thankful for that. But yeah, let's get into these two slates. I will cover this early 2-game slate very briefly, so if you don't want to listen to it for the first 5 or not even 5 minutes honestly of this video, then there'll be a link down below in the description. You tap that, it'll get you to the start of the 11-game analysis, or if it's just past the game, right, that those games started at 2 o'clock, well then that makes sense to hit that link. So you can hit that link. Before you do, welcome to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Sal Vetri. I do cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL, NBA, WNBA, and MLB streets. We're going to cover MLB right here. I have some NFL videos for season long and for the Thursday preseason slate already out. There'll be more coming out. I'll be going live tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time for that 16-game huge slate. Doesn't happen ever in the regular season, really. 16 games, all of them playing on one day outside of like the last week of the year. Down below, I do have some free strategy guides. I do have my daily fantasy course. Check all of that out. And I have a Patreon exclusive podcast where the last 2 days have gone really well in MLB. Pretty much made up for the past month of a downturn. It pretty much went, and now we're about back to even now. But yeah, I'm excited. Let's go into this 2-game slate. If you hit the subscribe button, greatly appreciate that. Lots of people have been seeing these MLB videos as less and less people start covering NFL, or as more and more people start covering NFL and less the MLB. Seems like more traction is generating here. So I'll be covering it still. Maybe not every single day in terms of a video like this, but for now, yes, I will. We'll see how next week goes with the NFL content pumping out. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. Let's get underway. The quick 2-game slate to start it off. If you don't want to watch that, hit the link down below. So 2-game slate's pretty straightforward. 4 teams. I mean, we have the run totals here. Seattle's below a 4 implied run total. You have Milwaukee coming in at like a 4.1 implied run total. Those are the 2 lowest on the slate. Makes sense. They're going up against the 2 best pitchers on the slate, in James Paxton and Jack Flaherty. It's a 2-game slate, and the reason I want to cover it is there is a $10,000 to first prize pool here of only about 3,900 people allowed in there. So make sure to get in on DraftKings. You can check out FantasyDraft as well. You can make sure to get in over there on the slates that they're running at night, the 11-game slate. Not sure if they're doing the 2-game. I really have a hard time wanting to get to Justice Sheffield. I get it. It's a 2-game slate. Nobody's going to play him at $5,000. I think that's the right move. Yankees implied for 5.8 runs, by far the highest on the slate. You don't have to full stack them on a 2-game slate. I think stacking's still okay, especially in that situation. But you can go one-offs. You can go with a 5-man stack and 3 one-offs, or you can just go all one-offs and try and piece together all the home runs and all the power, extra base hits, RBIs. Because on a 2-game slate, I still think stacking is viable if there is a situation where one team clearly stands out. That is what's happening with the Yankees. And I think less and less people will stack today just because it is a 2-game slate. But at the same time, yeah, you can go with a 4-man Yankee stack and 4 one-offs, and I think that's completely fine. So I don't really want to get to Sheffield. You can talk me into getting to Jordan Lyles. And the reason that you can talk me into getting to Jordan Lyles, well, is because if you're going to pay for Paxton and Flaherty, by far the 2 best options, in my opinion, on the slate, you have Paxton with a 30.2% strikeout rate. You have Flaherty with a 28.4% strikeout rate. But if you look at Flaherty's strikeout rate against righties, it's 33.8%. Now, we could break this down and say, well, Flaherty is facing Milwaukee, who's going to have at least 4 guys in the lineup bat from the left-handed side of the plate, where Flaherty, instead of giving up a 146 ISO, gives up a 183 ISO. Instead of striking out 33.8% of batters, strikes out 23.1% of batters. Lots of, if not all of his home run power for the most part has been given up to lefties. You have Yelich, you have Moustakas, you have Grandel, who will bat from the left side, you have Thames. All those guys more than likely going to be batting in the 2 through 5 or 2 through 6 spots of the order. So there is some upside in terms of a Milwaukee stack, Milwaukee one-offs, and then there's some upside in terms of getting away from Jack Flaherty. I'm probably locking in a James Paxton on this slate, so is everybody else, but 3.8, 3.9 implied run total against a team that is going to be very lefty heavy in terms of 5, maybe probably 6 lefties in this lineup. And Paxton gives up no power to lefties, 0.77 ISO. I don't care that he'll be chalky. Gives up a ton of power to righties, but outside of Austin Nola, who's been batting in the middle of that lineup as of late, there's really no righties that even I consider as scary. No Domingo Santana right now. Yeah, I'm not really too worried about playing James Paxton. Your second decision is, do I want to pair him with Flaherty and spend $19,400? Or do I want to take my chances and go down to Jordan Lyles and just spend $17,000 and still have some money for bats? That's totally your choice. It just depends on the stacks you want to get to. Again, you don't have to get the stacks. You can go to all one-offs. Jordan Lyles, if we quickly cover him, going up against St. Louis, who's now fully healthy. So all of St. Louis stats from mid-June are going to be kind of fake, I guess you can say. They're going to seem like they have a low implied run total or low ISO from both sides of the plate. They're going to seem like they have high strikeout rates, but those are going to probably both stabilize over the next month or so. So I'm going to try and get clean data for St. Louis every single day and see if anything is trending, because I think it is already starting to. But in terms of Jordan Lyles, he does have strikeout stuff, 25.7 against righties, but he also gives up a lot of power. 1.65 home runs per 9, highest on the slate, gives up loads of power to lefties, gives up loads of power to righties. This lineup is going to be filled with both of them, Matt Carpenter, Dexter Fowler, Edmonds from the left side of the plate, then you're going to have the right side of the plate, all the power guys in the middle of that lineup between Goldschmidt, DeJong, Ozuna. Yadier Molina hit 2 bombs yesterday. So, yeah, I really am scared to get to a Jordan Lyles. The main reason that you get to him is not because you have any main confidence in him going for 20-plus points. It's because, one, you need to fit somebody in with those bats. If you're going to get to the Yankees, you need to fit somebody in with their bats. The big guys on Milwaukee, you're going to have to fit somebody in with their bats. And if you go with Jordan Lyles and James Paxton, that makes it easier. You can go to a Jack Flaherty and a Jordan Lyles. I usually don't like pitching both of the same pitchers from the same game, but I'm actually fine with that on a 2-game slate. The 4-point upside doesn't matter as much to me. So getting away from Paxton seems very scary to me. If you're trying to find salary, Paxton, Flaherty, and Lyles are all in play. Paxton seems like the one that I want to get to the most, if not every time. Flaherty and Lyles, depending on where I want to go in my stacks. No interest in Justice Sheffield. That is the quick and dirty breakdown of the 2-game slate. So now let's move over. Let's introduce everybody else to the video, the ones that skipped the first 2 games. So welcome back. We just covered the 2-game slate, so now you are going to start this 11-game slate. Just remember, down below you can hit the subscribe button. Appreciate that a ton. Channel is growing a ton. You check out my NFL videos, and also my daily fantasy course is down below. If you have interested in knowing my takes right before lock on really hitting stacks, specific one-offs, pitching, that is also going to be linked down below for Patreon members. There's a basic package and there's a priority package. Priority package, I'll answer all of your lineup questions up until lock every single day, as many as you have, but that's just for priority members. Basic, you get the exclusive podcast and the stat sheets as well. So 11-game slate. Lots of good pitching on the slate. Some things that don't make any sense to me in terms of the pricing of this slate, and we'll get into that right away. 5 guys that stand out as interesting to me, and potentially a 6th in terms of he's going to be in a very risky spot, but I have interest because of the ownership going to be virtually 0. So to start it off, look, Gerrit Cole's a fantastic pitcher, but the 2 best pitchers in the league in terms of when they're healthy, and just consistency might be Gerrit Cole and Max Scherzer this year. I mean, before Scherzer got hurt, he was right up there. I know Justin Verlander's in the league, but he's had problems with consistency from the home run ball. Steven Strasburg is somebody who's underrated that comes to mind as well. Charlie Morton, I get it, all these guys. Lucas Giolito, he had some problems right after the All-Star break with consistency. But Gerrit Cole and Max Scherzer stand out as some guys, and they're on the same slate today. But I can get $1,200 less for Max Scherzer in a game that's going to be overall better, in my opinion, for his matchup. Yeah, give me that. Baltimore's currently implied for a 2.9 implied run total. It's not like Tampa Bay's implied for anything higher. Tampa Bay's implied run total is 3.3, but Baltimore's already dropped from a 3 to a 2.9. Pretty decent gap there of 0.4, and Max Scherzer is going to be $1,200 cheaper. Yeah, I have all the interest in the world in Max Scherzer, who's a minus 430 favorite, compared to Gerrit Cole, who's a minus 210 favorite. Seems like almost a lock for a win. He has a .72 home runs per 9, the best on the slate. Doesn't give up any power. 4.7% walk percentage. That's top 2 on the slate, only behind Ryan Yarbrough, who has a kind of a smaller sample in a way. 38.5% strikeout rate against righties, 30.2 against lefties, just all dominant, highest against righties on the slate by 5 percentage points, ridiculous. And then you get Baltimore, who's just an average to below average team. Against righties, they strike out right around average, and they have right around, or they actually have a below average power rating of a 174 ISO since the middle of June. Max Scherzer gives up no power. I don't have to tell you that he's fantastic. He goes the deepest into the games out of anybody on the slate, 6.58 innings pitched per start. He's an absolute monster. If he was the similar price point, if he was $12,000 and Cole was $12,200, well then yeah, now you have a decision to make. Who do you like more? Where's the ownership? I imagine Max Scherzer picks up a lot more ownership than Cole, but he should in this sense. It makes sense. He's way too cheap for his price point based on the implied run total, based on his upside in this matchup and what I would project the Baltimore lineup to be for his strikeout stuff and the projected lineups in that projected strikeouts in that lineup. Max Scherzer is by far and away too cheap. Unless Max Scherzer is on a pitch count today, and I'm just not aware of that right now, then I don't understand the price point here. He's probably $1,000 to $1,500 too cheap. Even on Fantasy Draft, if you could see the split there, $24,000 for Cole, $21,600 for Max Scherzer. You're getting a very similar discount over there as well. Doesn't make any sense to me today. So Scherzer's my favorite pitcher right now, or not my favorite, my number one pitcher in terms of my first interest. Second interest is actually going to be $8,400 Tanner Roark against the Royals. Look, the Royals are pretty terrible against righties. The Royals have a 141 ISO since mid-June. That is the third worst in the league, only behind Miami, only behind the White Sox. Tanner Roark's been pretty good this year. Limiting power, 1.14, home run per 9. He does strike out righties, 25.5%, and that's good because he'll get Alex Gordon and Ryan O'Hearn from the left side and probably Nicky Lopez, those three guys from the left side of the plate, where he only strikes out 19% of guys. And he gives up a 196 ISO compared to a 124 ISO to righties. So I'm not any concerned about Nicky Lopez, who I think has one home run this year. Alex Gordon is a pretty good left-handed hitter, so that's where some power and damage can come from. Ryan O'Hearn does have the capability to take a guy deep, but he's not somebody who scares me either. So really, Alex Gordon is the only spot in this lineup for Tanner Roark that scares me. Now, obviously, you have the Jorge Solars, you have the Hunter Doziers, the Whit Merrifields from the right side of the plate, who are good hitters, but Tanner Roark against those righties, 124 ISO given up, 25.5% strikeout rate, gets a ton of ground balls, doesn't give up home runs really to righties. I like a lot of that. 8,400 is sort of a steep price point, especially if you're paying for Max Scherzer or Cole or really anybody in the 10K range, because then you're paying like 19,000 plus to pair Roark as your SP2. And it seems to me that you probably want to get to some Red Sox stacks today with their over an 8 implied run total already. But if for some reason you're going to fade the top end pitching, stick to the mid-range, try and get different there, I think Tanner Roark is a very good option against a very weak Kansas City team, where he and his personal stuff and how he kind of goes out there and deals against righties is going to match up really well against a team that is kind of stacked on their righties. But if he's going to limit that overall in terms of getting more strikeouts and not giving up runs, yeah, I like that a lot. Third interest is $7,800 Anthony DeSclafani. So I like DeSclafani today against Miami. Miami has a 3.9 implied run total. That should be just a given by now. They're going to have a below a 4 implied run total, and it's just crazy, but they will. He's a 150 favorite. 7,800 is a good price point for him. Not a great pitcher overall, but similar to Tanner Roark's matchup, his stuff does not get any better for this matchup, right? If you were to pick Anthony DeSclafani to face anybody, and I get it, Miami stinks in general, but just based on the fact that they don't have lefties in the lineup. Now they just brought back Austin Dean, I believe. Austin Dean is a lefty. If I do remember that correctly, I could be wrong on that. Actually, I might be thinking of JT Riddle. So if Austin Dean is not a lefty, then JT Riddle was definitely a lefty. So they still might not have any lefties in this lineup. If so, they'll have one at most. DeSclafani struggles against lefties, 21.5% strikeout rate and a 261 ISO against lefties. Well, he's not going to have to face any, or at most he'll face one really bad lefty at the bottom of that lineup. But then DeSclafani against righties, 26.2% strikeout rate. The 26.2% strikeout rate is actually top 6 on this slate. It's 6th. And then when you go into his ISO, 146 ISO, well below average. So you're going to get him today facing Miami in a very good spot, in my opinion, and doesn't give up much power to righties. They obviously don't have power. They strike out a lot overall, 25.3% against righties since the start of June, and a 137 ISO. Yeah, I have a lot of interest in Anthony DeSclafani today, but again, it's the price point thing. Is he worth it at his price point of $7,800 to pair him with a Max Scherzer at $11,000 and spend $18,800 on pitching? Can you find a way around that? I'm not sure. I think pairing the mid-range options in Tanner Roark and DeSclafani is also smart. Maybe not. It makes sense, at least early on, right? We're 12 hours, 13 and a half hours to lock. But DeSclafani would be my third interest. Fourth interest would be Aaron Civil, $7,000. This is probably the guy who's just going to get all the ownership. The obvious plays today, in my opinion, are going to be Max Scherzer paired with Aaron Civil for cash or really even tournaments, and then try and get different with your bats, even though you're going to force in the Red Sox bats, try and get different with your bats somehow, right? I mean, a 188 favorite. The guy's been balling out in his very limited sample, or at least his like 1.5 or 1 month sample so far in the majors, his 5 or 6 starts. Has yet to give up a home run, a 5.2 walk percentage. Now, his SIERA has been coming down, but it's still higher than his ERA by a mile, but it makes sense. It's very hard to sustain a 1.82 SIERA, if at all possible. So his 1.82 ERA is going to be definitely lower than his 4.39 SIERA, but the guy goes deep into the games, 5.84 innings pitched per start. You're going to get him with a 31.9% strikeout rate against lefties. Does not strike out righties, but that's fine because you're facing a team that really doesn't have much righty upside or much righty power. He doesn't give up much power. An 091 ISO to lefties and 080 ISO to righties. It's ridiculous. Now he gets Detroit, a team that does have a 153 ISO against righties, bottom 5 in the league. They strike out 27.4%, tied for the most in the league against right-handed pitching. Yeah, $7,000 Aaron Seville is going to garner all the ownership, in my opinion, at least kind of thinking this early on. And if he doesn't, then there's something wrong with the public today. But yeah, I would imagine that the highest owned pitchers on today's slate, at least in the top 2 or 3, is going to be some sort of mixture of Aaron Seville and Max Scherzer today, and then probably another cheaper guy down below. But those are my 4 main interests. Now, I do have some floating interest. Eduardo Rodriguez at 8,200 is a floating interest. Pitching against Colorado today. Look, I get it. They're in Coors Field. It's a scary spot. I'm probably not going to get here, but I just want to give you an example of a pitcher who Colorado has a 6 implied run total, and once again, their total is dropping. Is of a pitcher who, if you're going to put him in Coors Field, is a good product for Coors Field, if that makes sense. He gives up below a 30% hard hit percentage, gives up not much fly balls, 32.7%, and he's a ground ball pitcher at 48.3%. A guy who doesn't give up much power to righties at 138 ISO, going to get 6 to 7 righties in that Rockies lineup. It's not a smart play in terms of if you're looking at this on the face and you say, well, there's a 21 other pitchers not pitching in Coors Field or 20 other pitchers not pitching in Coors Field that I can choose from today. Why would I go to Rodriguez? I'm just telling you he's going to be virtually unknown. So if Tanner Roark and or Anthony DeSclafani pick up ownership at a high level, which I don't think they do, just based on the fact that it's tough to pair them with a Scherzer or a Cole or whoever people pair as their SP1. But if for some reason they do pick up a lot of ownership, Roark and or DeSclafani, well, Eduardo Rodriguez is going to have virtually none. On an 11-game slate with him in Coors Field, I imagine, and a 6 implied run total against him, I imagine he has like a full or like a 4% ownership mark, if not lower. So I'm not saying he's a fantastic play, but I'm saying he's underpriced, and he is the type of pitcher who I feel comfortable playing out there in Coors Field because he doesn't give up hard hit contact, doesn't give up power to righties, and just doesn't give up fly balls all that often, gets a lot of ground balls. With that said, is he one of my top interests? No, I just kind of listed 4 to 5 guys that I like ahead of him. But the mid-range is actually kind of stacked on this slate. The lower range is not that great today. I mean, you have Ariel Jurado coming in as a $4,000 probable long reliever against the Angels. Now, $4,000, you can obviously always get to it, and it makes it a lot easier to kind of fit him in. Yesterday, we had $5,000 Adrian Hauser. All he needed to do is get 10 points for you to cash or even win tournaments. That's all you need at Ariel Jurado at $4,000. You need 8 to 10 points just to fit in your stack. So he's definitely in play to me. He's just not a guy similar to Eduardo Rodriguez that I have a lot of confidence in. Jurado right now listed as a probable long reliever. Can he go 4 to 5 innings? Sure, that would really help us. Can he go 2 innings? Yeah, that's also possible with Ariel Jurado. So I'm not positive if I get there at 4,000. Want to kind of read some more reports in the afternoon, play with some lineup construction. But that's where I'm at right now. Max Scherzer at the top end kind of stands out to me as the only guy I have really any interest in above 8,500 today due to his price, due to his matchup. I don't even care what the ownership is, honestly. If Cole is so much lower, I probably still don't get there. Tanner Roark and Anthony DeSclafani in the mid-range, and then you can get to Eduardo Rodriguez, and I think that it's fine. GPPs only, of course, but I think that it's actually fine if indeed the ownership is just going to be virtually unowned. I get it. There's a 6 implied run total against him. It is not pretty for him. He does give up power to lefties. That is not good when you have Charlie Blackmon and Daniel Murphy in the lineup. So do not tread lightly there, right? He's not one of my top 5 guys that I'm saying today, at least right now, top 5. And then DeSclafani in that range. Aaron Seville at 7,000 seems like the best cheap option. Or if you want to just punt it all the way down, I would go to Ariel Jurado at $4,000 flat. Another guy who stands out in some ways is Sandy Alcantara, just because he goes deep into the games, but I'm not going to be getting to him. I think his Sierra is garbage. I think there's a lot of things that he doesn't do well, including striking out guys. I think Cincinnati has a nice implied run total today as well. So that's that. If you want more in terms of my interest on this slate, my Patreon podcast is linked down below. If you want to ask me any questions specific to your lineup, you can go down below on Patreon. There's a priority member tier. You can join that. Limited people. I think there's only 10 or 15 allowed on that. So if you want one of those, check that out. Hit the subscribe button before you leave. My name's Sal. You already know that. Peace out, gang.
Hey, hold up. 1 second. Check out this page. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button, all right? And if you're interested in Patreon, if you're not already a Patreon, you can hit that button on Patreon, become a Patreon. It will take you right there. You can also check me out on Twitter at SalVetri_DFS. And hey, if you're interested, this next video that's about to pop up, why don't you check it out as well. See ya.